The Gauteng High Court in Pretoria will today hear an update from the defence of former Speaker of the National Assembly and Defence Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula on its planned application for discharge of the corruption charges against her. SABC News reporter Samkele is in Pretoria and joins us live with the very latest. A very good morning to you, Samkele. For the better part of this trial, there's been minimal reportage, if you will, or at least there wasn't a lot of coverage of this specific case. If anything, we were getting a summation at the end of the trial on a specific day. But now we're actually in the realm where the defense is looking to even bring a discharge application.
Indeed, Mfundo, the judge in the start of this particular trial did not allow for the dissemination of for the immediate reportage of this particular case due to it being in a manner that would alert other witnesses of what other witnesses said in the trial, which would disadvantage Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, the Speaker of the National Assembly. Then SABC and another broadcaster brought an application to this particular court in order to be able to report on this particular case due to public interest that trumps the individual interest of Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula. Then it was granted for media houses to come and broadcast this particular case. Today, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, who did enter court about 20 minutes ago, will be applying for Section 174, which is a permanent stay of this particular prosecution for the case to be thrown out, saying that there is not enough evidence against her. She is applying for a Section 174 to have the case thrown out. Her legal team will be arguing this morning that there is not enough evidence that was presented against her by the witnesses that were called by the state, such as General Bantu Holomisa, who was the initial complainant on this particular case, and also businesswoman Nombasa, who is the complainant who opened the charges against Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula of extortion, bribery, and thus the state opened cases of fraud, money laundering against Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, who has pleaded not guilty to any of the charges that she is facing in this particular court. This morning, she is applying for a Section 174 to have this particular case thrown out, saying there is not enough evidence against her to convict her on any charge of fraud, corruption, and money laundering. You did have witnesses where Nombasa and the state did present the conversations on WhatsApp between Nombasa and Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula of request of wigs, of nymph, which were code words for a request of money to about a tune of 2.4 million rands, with about 2.1 that was not yet paid for a post that was going to be given to Nombasa's husband, who was a general within the South African National Defence Force.
Now, Samkele, outside of the legalese, let's talk politics now. We do know that Ms. Mapisa-Nqakula essentially was a very senior member of the African National Congress. Has there been support from some, perhaps, party leaders or those that were specifically close to her that have continuously come to court as a form of support?
There was, at some point in time, some particular attention and support towards Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula. I remember when she was arrested, the former Deputy President of South Africa and former Speaker of the National Assembly, Baleka Mbete, would come to court to come through to support her. Then subsequent to that, the support dwindled over a period of time. You would not see the presence of the ANC Women's League, as she is a former Secretary General of the ANC Women's League. You'd remember that particular walkout of ANC Women's League NEC members under the tenure of the late Winnie Madikizela-Mandela at the helm of this organization that was led by Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula as Secretary General at the time. She went on to accuse the Secretary General of the ANC, now Fikile Mbalula, of instructing people and instructing ANC members and supporters not to come to court to support her, despite there being a National Executive Committee decision of the ANC that no one will go to court to support any leader who's charged with a serious crime emanating from the ANC's renewal program. And at the time, former President Jacob Zuma was going to court, and ANC leaders and members were going to court wearing regalia of the African National Congress, and the NEC took a decision that if you go to support anyone who's criminally charged in court, you go in your personal capacity and not donning the regalia of the African National Congress. She went on to speak to a podcast of the African Renaissance led by Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, speaking about how Fikile Mbalula is the one who instructed ANC members and supporters not to come and support her in court, saying she feels betrayed by the African National Congress and hard done by the Secretary General of the ANC, Fikile Mbalula, despite there being an NEC decision that no one goes to court to support anyone charged with serious crimes.
Now, so just for clarity, that was even in their personal capacity. She would claim that the Secretary General had gone on to say, even in their personal capacity, not adorning ANC regalia, that they would not or should not support her. And then beyond this, her demeanor in court, because of the curtailment of reportage, live reportage thereof on this case, we've just consistently been seeing images of her very, very distressed. She would be somebody who is in tears. How has her demeanor been throughout this trial?
I did have an opportunity to engage with her this morning. Well, she didn't want to speak on the record, but she basically said, Samkele ungangihluphi, Samkele ungangihluphi, ayi mntanami cela ungangihluphi. Basically saying, Samkele, please don't bother me, please don't bother me. She was a bit subdued. Throughout the course of this particular trial, she's been very subdued. At some point in time, when the trial started, she had come down with flu. She was very sick. She's been constantly wearing a mask in court, recovering from the flu that she had caught with, particularly during this winter period within the country. She has maintained her innocence. She's also been very cordial with some of the witnesses that have come to the stand to testify against her, particularly General Bantu Holomisa was very vague and thin on detail when it came to the allegations of fraud, corruption and money laundering against Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, and how he had come into interaction with Nombasa, who was a contractor in defense, and how they met in Umtata in the Eastern Cape whilst General Holomisa was driving to his homestead, and that is where Nombasa complained about Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula and how and the interaction with her and allegations of extortion, paying, and how the state was being abused in the form of South African Defence Force police services that were investigating Nombasa, which was allegedly not meant to be the case, and there was a complaint against her, despite Nombasa as well having faced some fraud allegations against her that were being investigated by law enforcement agencies. But Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, in short, has been very subdued, has been very sickly throughout the course of the trial, but evidence has been presented against her. Her legal team has tried to push back. We will see today, once court gets underway in a short while, if it's not yet gotten underway, when she applies for that Section 174, which is for this particular case to be thrown out, arguing that there is no sufficient evidence against her for a possible positive conviction.
All right, Samkele, thank you very much for that reportage. SABC News reporter there, Samkele Maseko, out at the Pretoria High Court for us, where today we're expecting a discharge application to be brought by the defence, as we've heard there. Given to them, at least their argument is that there is insufficient evidence that has been adduced to sustain the continuation of this specific trial.